Good day, everyone, and welcome back to today's episode of our AutoCAD series. During the last class, we talked about the usage of our tools, the draw tools, the modification tools, and then today we move on to learning how to create layers for our drawings, and then we'll learn how to create our doors and windows for both the plans and elevation. So more or less like we are creating them before we need them. We are creating them and storing them somewhere and storing them on the screen before we get to the point where we are going to need them. And one thing about AutoCAD is that we majorly use only the draw tool and modification tool and pop and just a little out of the annotation tools, which are these. We don't use everything. As I said during the last class, we the major tools you will be needing to use for AutoCAD are these draw tools, the modify tool, and just little out of this. The rest are just part of your creativity and how well you practice and do more research to be able to learn more on the AutoCAD interface. So without wasting much time, let's jump into today's lesson. We'll be learning how to create layers for our drawing and learn how to create windows and doors. So before we start, don't forget that we've created we've set our units and limits during the previous sessions, right? We've set them. So I'm still using that sheet, or we can just try to create another one for the sake of learning how to save your work. So before we move further, let's just try to save our work for the next. So in case of the next class, we'll be able to just open the work and just continue from there. So for us to save, if you should look at the top icons here, we are having our save button here. You can either click on it or type Ctrl Save on your keyboard, press down the Ctrl key and then save. Since this is your first time of saving your work, it will bring you to a pop-up window like this. It will bring out a pop-up window where you can name your work. Let's name it as my first practice, for example, practice. And then if you can see the files of type is saving it as an AutoCAD 2018, which means that any AutoCAD between 2018 and the latest version, that's 2018 and above, can be able to open this drawing. Let's assume we want to save it as 2007. Definitely a 2007 AutoCAD version till latest, which is 2025, we'll be able to open and edit the drawing. But let's just leave it at 2018, and then we can choose where we want to save it. Let's just choose desktop for easy access, where we can easily find it and then save. Once you choose desktop and you come to your desktop screen here, you should be able to see it, which is this. This is my first practice. So it has been saved to your desktop for easy access, and it will surely create something like a backup file for it also. So now that you saved our, and for you to be sure that your work has been saved, you should look up here. It will be saving. It will change the name. The description here will change to the name you save your work with. So now let's move on to creating our layers. And now for us to create layers for our work, when we start to draw, we'll be dealing with our walls, windows, doors, roof, and so on. So now we need to create layer for each of those components. So for us to do that, and any layer we create will be showing here. Here we're only seeing zero. Any layer we create will show here, no matter the amount of layers we create, no matter how long the list is, it will show. And for us to create layer, we just have to come to layer properties here. We'll be having a pop-up window here. Let's just try to expand this. Let's expand it. Let's expand this. Now this is how the pop-up window will look like. Let's just expand this a little bit also to see what we are dealing with. Mm. So now if you should look up here, we are having, I said during our first class that if you don't know the use or work of any of your tool you want to use in AutoCAD, just hover your mouse over the tool and it will show you the name of the tool and what it's used for. And it might even show you the short command, the shortcut key for it. So now, once I hover over here, I need to create a new layer. Now we are having a ready-made layer here already from AutoCAD. It's advisable not to touch that, not to use it. What you just need to do is to duplicate a new layer here, to create a new layer and name it by ourselves, in which is what we is advisable not to use. There are some that will not be having this, will be having depth point. It's advisable not to touch them. So just let's create our own layer, new layer, and now let's name it as wall. Okay, let's name it as our wall, then enter, and then let's try and change it, or let's leave the color in white. We'll be having it as continuous, and then let's kind of give it a bit of thickness. So we've given our wall a kind of thickness. Though this is not the main, this is just the line thickness, not your block work thickness. Actually, the block work thickness for building plans, or not even for building plans, for building construction, we are having up to like 3 to 4 types. We have the 4 inches, the 6 inches, and the 9 inches. In which the 9 inches is the 2 to 5 millimeters, or approximately 230, and the 6 inches is 150 millimeters. So the 4 inches is not actually common, but we have that. So that's not what we just did here. What we did here is the line. I said earlier that AutoCAD deals with lines. So this is just the line thickness, not your wall thickness. This is just the thickness of the line. And then if you should look here, this on, freeze and lock, they have their differences. Let's say, for example, you've created your wall and you don't want to edit it, or you don't want anybody to just come and tamper with it or edit it, then you can lock it. In as much as it remains locked, no editing can be made to it until you unlock it. For freeze means, okay, maybe you just want to, just like the freezer on your phone. You need it, but you don't want it to disturb you when you're working on others. Then you can just freeze it and work on the rest of the project. And when you are done with that and you need it back, then you can unfreeze it. And the on and off, just like the way you switch on your bulb and off is back. It's just like, okay, you want to work on a part of the project or part of the plan, you want it completely gone, but not like as if you deleted that aspect of your layer. You just switch it off to be able to focus on the rest of the component. Then you can just switch it off, and when you are done, then you switch it back. So now after the wall, let's move on to create our door. Our door. Let's move on to create our door. Enter. Then our door, let's try to change the color. Let's give it a color blue. Yeah. And this door now will be having two types of door, which we'll be using for our plan and then the elevation. The wall also, we'll be having wall for our plan, and the door will be creating that separately. We'll be creating that. So now let's change this thickness back to default. No, let's use 00. Yeah. So no thickness. And then let's create for our windows. Let's leave that as it is. We'll be having, what else can we have? We're having our, is it terrace? Yeah, terrace. Terrace means, probably your veranda and everything. That place does not usually have a wall. It's more or less like a beam or cantilever something. So on the plan, you just use a hidden line to differentiate that. So let's just try to change the color. Let's give it some kind of light blue color, cyan color, and then let's change the line. No, not the line width, the line type. Now we need something like an hidden line, or should we say broken line, but we don't have it here. So what we need to do is to load it. You have to load it. You can use, these are broken lines that you can use, and you can check down and you'll see hidden here also. So we can use that. So let's just select it. Now you see it has changed to hidden. It's now in hidden. Let's create for beam also. For the beam is kind of similar to the terrace, in which between your living room to your dining does not usually have a door. It's kind of an open space, but you'll be seeing something like an arc, if not an arc, just like a normal lintel beam there. So you can just name it as beam, and you can leave it as it is. Don't let us change anything. And after that, what else can we have? Let's create our furnitures. Our furnitures. So now let's change the color. Let's give it green color, and then let's change this back to continuous. Then we'll be having our text. When we want to name our components, maybe the living room, the dining, and everything, we'll have our text. And then, though the text, there are still some changes we'll be needing to do to that, but we'll come back to that later. So let's just kind of give it this color. Yeah, if it's not too, or let's change the color, let's give it this. Okay, and then what else? We need our dimension also. Dimension. So let's change the color and give it a good looking color. Okay, I think this is good. So at least for now, these are all what we will be needing.